Hello, spring is officially here, so I have to ask, how has the first 3 months of 2026 been for you? What are 1 to 3 moments you're genuinely proud of from January to now? What have you learned about yourself, your needs, your boundaries, your capacity? What do you want more of in quote unquote quarter 2? Energy, peace, money, community, creativity, discipline, softness. What's the priority and why? Well, you take a second to think about it. Let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Leja, but you can call me Lay. Welcome back to A Little Atypical, a space for the deep feelers and unconventional thinkers navigating wellness, personal development, and lifestyle with a little bit more nuance. I'm here to bring fresh energy to the beauty, wellness, and personal development space by having the curiosity to dig deeper beneath the surface. I like to talk about typical topics from a not so typical perspective, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. So, I know it's been a minute since I last posted, but I am trying to just have a balanced schedule. I feel like I say this every month, but basically, a schedule that works for my content creation goals and then just goals for my adult life. That is why for this month, it's going to be a bit more abstract than how it's been in the past. So for this episode, we're keeping it chill and I'm just going to brief in the topic, things that I've been thinking about, talking about quarter 2, about ways I've been shifting into the new season, and of course, end off with either questions or exercises to do as a practice for this season. For this month, I want the vibe to be resurgence and embodiment. Spring is the time of year when many people consider it a rebirth, but my birthday is in October. So my birthday naturally feels like a rebirth. So spring by default does not feel like one to me. Contrary to popular belief, I think our rebirth seasons are often dependent on the season we are born in. So for people midwinter to early spring, I can understand why spring can feel like a rebirth. For me, spring feels like releasing every single time to solidify the version of myself that was created approximately 6 months ago. So I turned 24 last year, and if you are interested in astrology and numerology, another aspect of it is perfection years, where each year of life corresponds with a house, and the themes you experience are based on your houses in astrology. I believe you typically use whole sign systems for this. So in my case, it's a first house year, and I'm a Cancer rising. So as a Cancer rising, my moon is in the sign of Capricorn, which is, in terms of whole signs, would be in my 7th house. But if we were using like degree theory and in the Placidus system, it would actually be in the 6th. But for this instance, it is in the 7th. So I'm probably experiencing themes of both like the 1st house and the 7th house. Anyways, so typically in a 1st house perfection year, the year highlights, your confidence, physical body, and how you present yourself to the world. It's overall about the renewal of self. And in terms of numerology, 2026 is a universal year 1. I talked about this from episodes back in January. So new beginning energy is just happening all around me. But also, since there are themes like around Cancer, it is also a time where it feels very emotional, and I'm thinking a lot about like ancestry, home, like familial relationships, and honestly all relationships since my moon is in the 7th house in this case. And everything I've been consuming lately has been pointed towards community, family, found family, survival, communication, and that's just the summary of my thoughts outside of health and career. All this to say that spring doesn't necessarily feel like a rebirth, but a time where the identity that was already, quote unquote, birthed during the fall is penetrating in terms of being understood. Who I am right now is who I'm meant to be. And while I understand the desires for rebranding, it doesn't constantly need to be done. So, regardless of March being one of the more tougher months where I feel like I was losing momentum because I had this experience where something had come up and it was taking up so much brain space where I found myself not only emotionally impacted, but it was draining me physically. So by the end of March, like I would say the 19th, I was able to detach a bit. I finished what I needed to and actually made time to have fun on a Saturday. And it was so good to start the spring off that way. Like, I got to wear my jeans with strawberry embroidery and like this green top. I love the design of it. It reminds me of very like oceanic mermaid type vibes. But regardless, I also got to wear the scent I bought specifically for the spring, which was around like, I think last October or November. And it was the K Alley Sparkling Lychee. Because I ended up going out Saturday, I also got a few things like a few spring slash summer candles and like scents. So I can't remember the names, but I can remember like the scent profiles. One was a peach and blossom candle. One was a lily and amber scent candle. And the last one was like an orange flower blossom and honeysuckle. And then I also got like plugins. One of them was like really good. It smelled like melon. And then the other one was like raspberry vanilla. And I'm kind of sad because I was supposed to get 5 of the plugins, but then the person didn't scan them. And then I didn't want to buy the individual because then it would be like 8 something when I could have gotten it like at least 25% off. But they didn't scan it with the rest of my stuff, so I just ended up not getting it. But I'm so sad because it was like a pina colada scent. And then I also got like some bath gels and like a guava body mist. And then going out, and doing something as simple as picking up a few things, having my favorite like mall snack, which is like Auntie Anne's pretzels, but specifically the almond ones, and just bringing home some Indian food healed something in me. Because sometimes I do think I take life very seriously and I hold back from doing things I enjoy. And it's not always about falling into a, hyper productive mindset, but, just the other aspects where you kind of think so much about not necessarily productivity, but about adulthood and what an adult is supposed to prioritize, if that makes sense. Anyways, this story kind of brings us back to the title of the episode, which is about making things click to keep going. Because in March, things were not clicking, although there were things happening like the growth regarding content creation and aspects of my health journey just no longer feeling like something I have to be extremely intentional about. I was just experiencing a lot of shadows and was reflecting a lot. After reflecting and talking to one of my friends about how 2026 for her has been going so far, I've decided that I don't want to completely change my goals, which is fine because there are still things that needed more time. And there are things that naturally evolved into something different. So switching so suddenly wouldn't make sense. And the last goal has been more about like wrapping my mind around it. And I don't mean to be vague. I just feel like I need more time to figure out how to describe things. Because maybe I'll talk about like my goal themes this month, but I'll put 2 in one episode, which would be about career and connection. And then I think health should be separate because there will be a lot to say in terms of what I feel is right for me at the moment in terms of approaching my health. And you know, how conversations online have been impacting me, but not necessarily influencing me, etc. But I don't know how it would work talking about because I know many creators have to change like the language they use so the content doesn't get restricted. So it's either that I would need to figure out how to word things because I also typically post the episodes on YouTube. So I would probably use phrasing that I've seen other people use to refer to aspects, or just not put the episode on YouTube at all. So I don't know. That's just me thinking out loud because I just want to talk deeper about things that matter to me most at the moment. And that also has been a huge thought for me lately because I just have a desire to speak with more, courage and more rawly. And let me tell you why. So, one Sunday, I was in book club, and you won't understand this story unless you listen to episode 82. But the TLDR version is basically I had a conversation with people, and something in that conversation triggered me. Not because the person said anything wrong. And I feel like I have to add that in because I do think us as a society got used to saying that interactions triggered us and automatically villainizing a person instead of making it about what it means for ourselves. So, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I probably said it, but I was diagnosed with social anxiety years ago during when I had like my second therapist. I have done therapy on and off since I was a teenager. So when it comes to social interactions, I tend to hyperanalyze, but it's never really about the other person. Like, let's say I say something and then there's this long period of silence. I think, oh crap, I said something wrong or it didn't make sense. And typically it challenges a way I view myself. So that's just one example. But in this case, back to the story, I learned the person's Mercury sign, and it made so much sense why I felt the way I did because it is directly opposite from mine. And I know some may roll their eyes at this, but if you are listening and are someone who comes back to the podcast, I feel like in some ways you expect the whole astrology commentary. But if you are new here, just let me cook before you roll your eyes. So I'm a Libra Mercury. And while it has pros like being able to make points from multiple things and can see things from multiple angles and perspectives, and I think that's why in general we come off as more open-minded, the cons are there as well. So learning that this person was an Aries Mercury, it made so much sense of how I felt because a person with an Aries Mercury is very sharp in how they speak, meaning they inherently sound very direct in what they say. And it comes off more of, this is facts and there's no room to think about this differently. Even if that's not what they actually think, but that's just essentially how it's perceived. And the way they communicate naturally sound more combative and like they are trying to challenge you. And if it's not in what they say, challenge is more likely how you felt internally leaving the interaction. I also notice that the way they speak is often so grounded to who they are and reflects their identity so clearly. And I'm saying this objectively, of course, because it's something I admire, and it made me realize that how I speak and talk about things is inherently defensive as in, cautious and protective. If people viewed the way Aries Mercury's communicate as offensive, as in like, kind of more risky. And as a Libra Mercury, it made me realize how much I try to justify what I say and how I think, and how when I speak, it is rarely a reflection of myself as an individual. And let me tell y'all, this had me in a mental spiral after, because the way things were clicking. So I posted on Substack, just learned my contradicting defense mechanism, hating proving myself, but always needing to justify myself. I don't know how to feel about this revelation. Because that was just the surface level of what my thoughts were. So on March 20th, I did a card pull to see what my 12 intentions should be for the astrological new year. And I got 1, love, 2, balance, 3, intimacy, 4, happiness, 5, anxiety, 6, hobby, 7, unexpected blessing, 8, defense mechanism, 9, longing, 10, wusa, 11, healer, and 12, freedom. So I believe I'm supposed to set the intention to release anxiety, defense mechanisms, and longing, but like call in the rest. While I haven't made the intention specific yet, because I still have to figure out what that means by the Aries new moon, So having that realization about needing to justify myself made me think about how it influences me in terms of the stuff I meant to call in, like love, freedom, hobbies, or even, happiness. In love, I cannot accept if someone said they love me just because, because I need a reason. With hobbies, it has to be justified at least through being curious or connecting to a trait I believe myself to have. With freedom and happiness, I need to know why I deserve it. It's never just because with me. There is always a reason, and maybe it's to give myself a false sense of understanding so I can be more secure about my choices. But sometimes I just wonder how life would feel without the need to prove yourself or justify yourself or your interests, because in some ways it feels like an apology for having the audacity to exist. And, February and March tend to bring out these thoughts the most, shadow lessons, if you will. And so some of mine this year were: take on your triggers instead of isolating them. Boundaries are tools for self-respect, not control. Not everything that triggers you is inherently mean, rude, or meant as an attack. The discomfort you feel are sometimes subconscious thoughts or beliefs you hold back from reflecting on. This is how the illusion of healing happens, because you are always doing great until something tests that. The next one: poor souls can't recognize true luxury. Your existence is the wealth you are chasing. Third one: stop looking at things as absolutes, because there is a range you can find peace in. And the last one: stop saying you feel stuck when you are going through an experience, because when you say you are going through it, it's a reminder that there is still motion happening, that it is a phase that eventually ends. There is a difference between standing firm in who you are versus standing firm in your situation. So, I can't tell you where these came from, but I want to use them to re-spark my efforts for this year. And those are just some of the ones I just really remember. So that being said, let's move on to setting y'all up for this month. with some journal questions and some exercises. So, starting with the journal questions, if you had to name this season of your life so far, what would you call it? And what would you call the next one? What has to click for you right now in order to keep going? Do you need clarity, support, a routine, proof, rest, or something else to make things click for you? What has been quietly draining you lately, mentally, emotionally, physically? And what boundary or adjustment would protect your energy? Where are you being asked to embody the version of you keep visualizing? What would that version of you do this week specifically? What's one small joy you can intentionally weave into the next 7 days to remind you life is still yours? Okay, so on to exercises to do. First up, and you should know where this is heading, create a spring bucket list. So for a balanced list, name 3 to 6 places you want to go to. So the idea is travel and adventure. 1 to 3 personal growth / creativity challenges. You can do stuff like volunteering, writing a short story once a month, or, doing video essays. Then 1 to 3 events to connect to an identity you have. So let's say, for example, you are a book girl or guy. Look for if there are any book release parties, a book fair, participate in a readathon, doing a bookstore crawl, stay at a literary hotel, attend a lecture, visit homes of writing legends, challenge yourself to make outfits / makeup looks based off of what you're reading, either based on the book itself or specific characters, or you can go on like a literary pilgrimage. And that's just the example for you to get the gist. Next is spring cleaning. If you haven't started, it is the time for a declutter. Getting rid of clothes either through, selling, donating, or if you are creative, using it for upcycling it into something you can use. Donate books you don't want or sell them. If you have a kitchen appliance that you bought but ended up not using and it's in good condition, pass it on. Spring cleaning is about giving yourself room, and it goes deeper than just tidying up. An aspect of spring cleaning I've been working on is getting rid of some of the things from my childhood, not like things like the DS or Wii U or, a penny board. But unless something is, like a special doll or a teddy bear, having all of those things just weigh a lot on me. And I was telling people how I want to get rid of things from my childhood, and they were like, how they regret not holding on to things. But I feel like the process is very symbolic for me. Like shedding away ties of my old self to welcome space for the adult I want to be and the life I want to live. And granted, if I'm trying to manifest, a move or a change, I feel like that's a way to release so opportunities can actually come. Actually, let me ask y'all this. How do you feel about getting rid of your childhood things? If you've done it, do you regret it, or do you feel like it shifted you in the right direction? If you've done it and you regret it, is it because you just miss the idea of having those things around, or that you want it back for specific purposes? Because my thing is, I feel like the ability to let go of stuff physically is also a spiritual experience of your worth and identity not being tied to objects. And not to sound morbid, but I've noticed that when people pass away, it is so hard on the people left behind because they now have to deal with it, like looking through papers and clothes. And I don't know if while I'm alive, I want to get used to the idea of holding on to things so strongly that I can't see space for who I'm becoming. I don't know if it feels like a blockage, and it's not that I'm not sentimental, it's quite the opposite. Like, I'm so sentimental over things that do not serve me or have that deep of meaning for me. Like, I can never see myself getting rid of like my original cinnamon swirl bunny from Build-A-Bear that I named Emily, even though my friend gifted me another one in high school. I can see myself getting rid of the little toys I got from, all the times I've had Happy Meals, or like the random things I have that honestly I can't remember how or when I got it. I feel like we keep things around because maybe we believe it will help us remember, or we think of it as proof of the freedom of play we once had, instead of reminding ourselves that there is truly no age limit on joy. And the last exercise is to create a sensory play plan for the season. So, spring sensory play is basically choosing inputs on purpose. So, basically, I was reading Eat, Pray, Love when I was planning this episode, and she said something that hit me. How a lot of us know to consume entertainment, but we don't know how to immerse ourselves in pleasure. And I was like, wait, that's the difference between, scrolling and actually feeling alive. Entertainment is passive, pleasure is participatory. Pleasure asks you to be present, and I think sensory play is literally training for presence, like a soft skill, but for your spirit. I already spoke about how I am using scent, but I also wanted to add other ideas like through color. March was a gray season for me in two ways, like mentally and physically. I was overthinking, feeling heavy, and like nothing was clicking. So I was just very frustrated. And on top of that, I was literally wearing so much gray. It matched how I felt. So muted, tired, low energy. But, after that mall day, I found myself reaching for more, pink or like cheetah print. Or technically, it would be considered leopard print. But I digress. And as silly as it sounds for some people, color is one of the ways you can play with your sensories to regain some spark or, regulate your emotions. Other ideas besides scent and color include, food, lights, space, or texture. How you can incorporate this is doing like a weekly sensory map where you list all the things you experience, like, colors, patterns, and symbols you were drawn to, foods you ate, the type of spaces you were in, and how they influenced your mood. Or you can intentionally choose an aspect of senses to focus on monthly, or you can design your sensations for each month and put it into practice and see how it influences your life. Honestly, the possibilities are kind of endless and completely your choice, but I just thought this is something that was really fun. So that is really all for today. I'm going to end off with some things I've been loving lately or looking forward to, and it will be a rapid fire since I feel like this episode was so clear on where I'm at. So we will be doing a card pull from the Self-Care Oracle deck as well, just to let you know. Something I've been loving is strawberry flavored things, and maybe it's because I am anticipating the time when strawberries taste sweeter, but I've been having, for example, like strawberry flavored matcha. Well, not real matcha, but you get the vibe. And like strawberry flavored Frosted Flakes. Side note, because I eat it as a snack, like literally just like a snack sized amount. For some reason, I just don't like it with milk, but eating it reminds me of, that strawberry shortcake ice cream that, I don't know if everyone did this, but in my school, many people like bought that during lunch because my middle school slash high school had this like mini snack room that was like ran by the PTA, and ice cream was available all year around. But specifically, the cereal reminds me of the strawberry shortcake flavor whenever I have it dry. And as for things I'm looking forward to, when I was planning this, it was, I think, like March 25th. And two albums I am looking forward to is, Ray's sophomore album, which is going to be called like This Music May Contain Hope. And then the same day, Melanie Martinez is, releasing her fourth studio album, which is called Hades. And whether you like or dislike either of them, it's so crazy to me because they're releasing the same day. And while Hades will explore like, dystopian and utopian themes, Ray's concept for her album is a journey from darkness to light. Also, in numerology terms, March 27th, 2026 is equivalent to universal number 22. And it's supposed to be like a powerful master builder day, signaling an ideal time to, turn grand visions into tangible reality through like, practical actions. So I'm already planning for it. I guess by the time you hear this, it won't technically be something to look forward to, but I wanted to mention how aligned it felt since this month what I've been consuming is Parable of the Sowers mostly, but I also have been enjoying, obviously, Eat, Pray, Love. I finished reading The Duke and I started this book called Mad Wife by Megan Church. So now it's time to transition to the card pull. If card pulls aren't your thing and this is where you click off, thank you for listening and be sure to come back next week. Follow so you can stay up to date with new episodes, catch up on old episodes, and rate the podcast 5 stars so more like-minded people can add it to their rotation of content. The card we received is 22 Energy Work. Mantra: my energetic body is clear and radiating love. Prioritize the maintenance of your metaphysical body, also known as your energetic body. It needs just as much attention as your physical body. The two are inherently linked, so taking care of one takes care of the other. Check in with your metaphysical body through a self-guided meditation. Close your eyes and tune into the sensations you're feeling within. Right at the top of your head and work your way down. Ask each part of your body or each of your chakras how they feel and what emotions they are holding onto that need to be processed and brought into balance. Be patient, the response will come. Frequently, our physical ailments can be the result of unresolved metaphysical issues. Look for a well-trained healer who you intuitively feel is a good fit for your needs. Explore Reiki, Theta healing, somatic therapy, Watsu aquatic bodywork, chakra alignment, voice activation, sound healing, or any other healing modalities that feel right for you. Journal prompt: do you have an intuitive sense of how the different energy centers in your body feel? Which ones do you intuitively feel need more attention? And that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of A Little Atypical. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share with someone who might need to hear this message. Remember, view the description box where you can find important links, such as the one to my website where there's so much more bonus content, and the one to my Substack where there's also much more content coming soon. So, until next time, Have a good day, evening, or night, and stay authentically atypical. Okay, bye.